It's about welcome to PM Express Business Edition. It's about 8 days to Christmas. Yes, in case you have forgotten, this is the time where businesses try to offer some discounts to customers, give bonuses to their workers, close their books on a good note, family get-together and parties. But how do you ensure that you get the expenditure done right during the season so then get broke in January 2020? And again, what about the Christmas expenditure? What is in for businesses as well as the state when it comes to tax collections and the expected dollar inflows from the buggers who are in town? How do you manage the Christmas cost to avoid being broke next year? All these issues wrapped up on PM Express Business Edition as I engage Charles Mensah. He's a financial consultant, and Doris Oyanti, he's also a banking consultant as well, as you look at managing the Christmas expenditure during these times and the impact on the larger economy. My name is George. We'll take a short break and we'll be right back. Welcome back to PM Express Business Edition. We're talking about Christmas expenditure and how do you make sure that you don't spend so much that come January 2020, you are broke. What is it about this holiday season that people just lose their head at the individual level and even at businesses as well? Borrowing to pay salaries, bonuses, trying to close the books on a good note, and even what about government itself as well? It'd be a good time for them to collect all the taxes. What about the buggers who are in town and bringing us all those dollars? Well, to get a better understanding and some advice for you, because today it's all about you, the businessman out there, even the individual, and also about managing the economy. As I engage Doris Oyanti, she is a banking consultant and also a CEO of Crescendo as well. And Charles Mensah, he's a financial consultant and is joining us via Zoom for this program. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be getting very soon to Charles Mensah. Doris Oyanti, welcome to PM Express. It's been quite a long time.
Yes, that's right. Thank you. I'm happy to be here with you.
What have you been doing yourself?
Trying to contribute to changing the leadership paradigm in Africa and also providing financial literacy through some of my activities as well as consulting in the hope that we'll be able to extend inclusion and also reduce poverty. I think that's enough for now.
Let's get back to the subject proper. I don't want to get so much from the Doris Oyanti Data Bank to ACCA and now to Christian. I mean, your firm, what are you guys, what do you actually do? I mean, I know you provide consultancy, but that is just a fraction of that, right?
Yes. So we do about 3 different categories of activities. And one part is consulting, management and business consulting. Yeah. And then we also do financial planning and advisory. Yeah. So we work with families for them to be able to set their financial objectives and targets. And we provide them support to work towards achieving these. So it can lift them from whatever levels they are at as far as financial independence is concerned to a better place. And we also provide training and people development. You'd know that I'm a professional certified coach, a Johnson Maxwell coach. That as well, we support people for them to harness the potential, the enormous potential that is on the inside so that they can become more relevant and contribute meaningfully to their communities. And
let's move straight into our topic about the Christmas expenditure. I mean, for you, I mean, you've been in this space for quite a long time in terms of the financial space. And what is it about Christmas that people lose it? When it gets into January, their back quotes, let me use the word carefully, senses that, listen, people spend so much, they don't know where the money is coming from, and they get broke. I mean, how do we manage this space? Let's first start at the individual level, because people want to have fun, they want to celebrate and all the rest. For you, what should be the approach going into this season, first at the individual level?
Right, thank you very much. great and loaded question. And I'm tempted to ask you if you are not excited that it's Christmas.
I am excited, despite the fact that I'm old. I mean, even though when I was a kid, I was mad about Christmas, still I'm so excited about Christmas.
Yeah. This week, I saw on social media a story about the spirit of Christmas being gone, and especially when it's been a hard year, you have the tendency to want to forget about everything that happened during the year, but you just can't help it. It's a festive season and you can't help letting yourself go. And this is the usual case when we are all excited as humans. We let go of a bit of our sense of judgment and reasoning, and we just let go and have fun. And so I think it's just the excitement. There's a bit of community influence because everybody's doing it, everybody's spending, everybody's giving gifts, and you can't exclude yourself. And so you also just go along with the tide, and it has implications. There's an interesting statistic that I'm going to share. It might surprise you, but I also think it's a statistic that everybody should pay attention to. And I picked this statistic from one of the pages that I follow. And it was saying that annually, 10% of Europeans get into debt during this Christmas season. 10% of Europeans.
Yeah.
I don't have the statistic for Ghana, but what I would like you to ponder over is, are you going to end up in debt by the end of December? Usually where the monies tend to go, some are going towards Christmas decorations, some are going towards gifts for others. And again, there's an interesting statistic about the volume that we spend on unwanted gifts. There's again so much that we spend on Christmas trees. In my house, sometimes a Christmas tree doesn't even last till it's Christmas. It's already broken down. So that's quite a bit of spending that happens during Christmas. And a lot of us also don't work with a budget, a planned spending plan, and then sources of funding for that season. And so when the season comes, they do their shopping right in the moment, which puts pressure on whatever volume of supplies we have in the market. And this tends to push prices up. So you see that in Ghana, we tend to have inflation spike. Somewhere it's already at 13%. And
12.2,
Yes, thank you for that correction. 12.2 is going to go up some more this December. Now, as the prices go up, if you are thinking about how government benefits, the VAT on those items will go up because it's percentage. So if you used to pay 3% on a 10 cedi item and you now have to pay 20 cedis, that same 3% is now moving from something like 3 cedis or 0.3 to 0.6. It's doubling. So that contributes to revenue.
We'll be looking at the larger economy and what it stands in for government. But I want to bring in Charles Mensah as well. He's a financial consultant. Mr. Charles Mensah, thank you so much for having time to join us this evening. And for you, let me get your thoughts on the business positioning around this time. Of course, you're thinking about the bonus, you're thinking about salaries, you're thinking about closing your books. How difficult is it for that business owner or for those board of directors or management in dealing with this season as a business person?
Thank you very much for having me. I was earlier on having a problem with the internet, but I hope I can be heard loud and clear. Now, George, I'll look at this thing for two things. The business side, I mean, every business do planning and budgeting, like she was saying. So every business in January, they know that we will come to December. And when we are in December, there's a likelihood that people will spend. Now, spending cannot be spent out of vacuum. You may have made profit before you pay bonus. So around this time, most employees who planned well, they will have their 13th month happening in December, because usually these days nobody does 12 months. Everybody, good businesses, they do 13 months. So 13 month expectation is there. The other bonuses, which I always encourage people, don't pay them around this time. pay them in January because that's when people get broke. So
interesting. And I've seen Madam Ahiati also nodding to that contribution of yours. Listen, we need to go for the shows. We need to let the kids spend Christmas. We need to paint the house. We need to get all those things in order. I need my bonus now.
Yeah, John, but why would you even paint your house in December? Your house should have been painted in October. Fortunately, we had the Friday thing where people were shopping. Things were cheaper. So there are certain things that you should take advantage of. December, Christmas is only 4 days. Why are you planning to do it only in 4 days? You should have planned it way back. Look, those who have followed some of these lectures in time past, they've been sending us texts and encouraging and saying that, look, I took advice. Once we are in January, we'll be in December. And therefore, you should plan towards it. There are some people who use insurance companies and savings companies to save money towards December so that the kids' demand will not be a surprise to them. The Christmas tree that I heard my sister talked about, look, Christmas tree, it doesn't expire. So if the Christmas tree that you used last year, you can use it this year. You just keep it the page, just change the position of the Christmas tree. If it was at the entrance of the door, now you change it to the exit of the door. These are the things, and they change the colors. If you have kids who are young, because usually the Christmas is for kids. So if you have kids who are young, one of the things that you do best and that you should do is that, listen, boys and girls, we are going to decorate. So let them get involved in decoration. They won't demand too much. When you're going shopping with them, let them do their list. Give them cash, small cash. Everybody's buying 2 items. Mommy doesn't have money to these days. Daddy doesn't have money to this. So have that conversation thing. So the Christmas becomes a carol. This year, we are not even buying passes. We are going to donate to the poor people. They can take all their dirty clothes, all their old clothes, or the dirty clothes, you wash them, pack them, iron them, and then you go and give it to charity. So these are the things that you should encourage the children. So you save money. One of the things that I was telling people that you don't have to borrow for Christmas.
And I'm interested in that because, Mr. Minister, I'll come back to you again because we wanted you to adjust your camera very well so that we can see your face when you make those brilliant submissions. But I'll come to Madam Ahiati as well because the bit about, I had a friend who was always telling me that, George, if I'm not in a business where the inflows are coming in, I would not borrow. Can the business person, the entrepreneur, borrow to deal with the Christmas salary and the rice and all those things as a business person? Or you wouldn't encourage that if the inflows are not coming?
The typical me would say, what would be the return on investment? So if the return on investment justifies taking a loan, paying interest on it, altering your gearing ratios so that you can satisfy the need to supply rice and oil to your staff, please go ahead. Because, sometimes we look at this instance where we forget the value of the employee and their actual contribution to the performance of the company. And there are organizations that would value the customer over the internal customer who is your staff. Yeah. And so when these dynamics come into the conversation, perhaps in some instances, it would make sense to borrow in order to give rice and oil. And I always like to say around this time when you are thinking of giving gifts to your staff, that you should have their well-being in mind. You can introduce them to habits, experiences that ultimately will improve their well-being, physical fitness, emotional fitness. They are tired, you can give them vouchers to the spa or something that would stimulate their creativity, so they end up coming back for you to enjoy higher returns on it. And
Madam Ahiati, some will say the reality is that sometimes you are privy to the books. You see what the company is making. Yeah. And when it gets to December, there are certain companies who have paid already. There are certain companies that I bet you the December salary is not going to come. Yeah. And they are frustrated because we saw the books, we saw the money that was going into the accounts office and everything. Then you can't understand when the excuses are coming that, listen, we can't do this for you. Let's wait till January before we do the bonuses and all the rest. Is it fair? How do you then encourage the same staff to come back January and help you hit your bottom line realize that enough of the monies are being paid to shareholders and all the rest. That is not right.
I'm happy, George, that you mentioned that we are not giving you the money now, but come January, we are giving it to you. Because bottom line, you get it. And we have parents that we call parents that give tough love and those that don't. And so let's weigh the options. A scenario where you've seen the books and therefore you think you should be paid something extra. If there is a promise or assurance that you will get this reward, because I believe in rewarding performance. And if you do not reward performance, you would eventually kill it. And therefore, if that promise of reward is there and it's only deferred, and you can trust your employer, as I expect employees to trust their employers, then you should deal with that, because at the end of the day, it's in your own interest. We all know what happens in January. You could always use a few extra CDs. And therefore, I think it's prudent. It's a prudent posture. But then there should be that communication, clear communication to employees, that they are going to be rewarded for their performance, for their contribution to whatever they've seen in the books during the year. It's only the timing, which may not be now.
Let me bring in Mr. Mensah again. And Madam Ahiati was talking about the communication and the timing as well. How do you manage the communication as a business owner and an entrepreneur now, when I know that, Mr. Mensah, from January to October, despite COVID, the books were good? When it came to making the early salary, you want to split it, the bonus, you want to look at this and that. How do you manage that communication to convince the worker that, listen, the books are good, but listen, take your time?
George, thank you very much. I think let's backtrack a bit. Bonuses are paid when we have exceeded our target. Because the reason why I've employed you, I'm paying you salaries. And I earlier made a mention of the 13th month. So if I'm going to pay you bonus, the bonus would have come out as a result of preparing my books. Any company that pays bonuses around December, it's probably because they are closing the year in September, or they are closing the year in October or November. But if you are really closing your year in December and you want to define as bonus, bonuses are not paid in December, trust me. Because you have to close your books. It's part of the expenses. So you have to close your books well and appreciate that, yes, you've paid quite a substantial profit. This year was a COVID year. Businesses are just coming out of COVID. Those who will pay bonus probably will be the bankers, because maybe they made quite money in terms of the interest. But those who are really, really manufacturing, look, I have been looking at clients' books and things. I doubt that some of them can pay bonus this year. I doubt it. If they will, maybe they will just share. We will not pay fiscal cash. Then maybe they will share bags of rice. Because, look, George, you cannot borrow to pay bonus.
And that is what I'm coming to, that you want to discourage a lot of employers to that practice of borrowing to pay bonus, increase salaries, and all the other things associated with the December package for staff.
No, George, take this story from me.
Don't borrow.
Borrowing to pay bonus is like borrowing to get married. You're not ready. So any company that borrows to pay bonuses, you're not ready. You're just acting. Because tomorrow, the payment starts in January. Where is the profit? Where is the money going to come from to service the debt? So banks will call in their facility, and then you'll be shouting on employees when they haven't done anything. When you have to communicate properly. Look, I believe in quarterly communication to employees. So every quarter, everybody sees the KPIs are shown. So everybody knows that, yes, we are making money, we are not making money. It's only when you throw a surprise at them in December, when you haven't reported quarterly returns to them, first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and fourth quarter, you are just giving a surprise, oh, we know you don't have money. You can only also do that when you, the shareholder or the managing director, have not changed your car. Because if you're going, as a managing director, if I
Yeah, we're trying to get some problem there with Charles, and we'll bring him back right now. But let me come back to you again about the business aspect, about the expenditure management during these times as well. How do you decide on the expenditures and what you're going to adopt. Whether you should do rice, you should do fuel coupons, you should do give vouchers, you should give them the money. Because some will say that, listen, Madam Anyati, I need the money. I don't need those things. I don't need rice.
Yeah.
When you have rice, I have lots in the house. If it's about corned beef, there's a whole carton in the storeroom.
Yeah.
I don't need all those things. I need the money. I mean, today, people are even on social media would ask that, listen, Momo and then Hamper, what do you want for Christmas? Well, a lot of people that I've spoken to, we want the money. Should you cut the expenditure on all those things and meat and bring in a fat cow to kill and share? All those things were good, funny old life. There's a new economy. There's a new digital economy.
Definitely. I would agree with you on that. So I think when it comes to the choice of what to give to employees, family, and friends as gifts, over time, the trends are changing, and therefore you have to listen to. Remember, I made reference to unwanted gifts, gifts that have no meaning or have no value to the persons to whom it's presented, and yet you've spent money on it. And all these are part of what drives people into debt during the festivities. Now, the question of whether you should borrow to do it or not is what has been thorny, and whether you should give them food products they are going to eat anyway, or whether you should give them cash.
I don't need the oil. I don't need that.
Usually the reason why some organizations give the rice and oil is because it's cheap but bulky. And so when you see the bulk of a sack of rice and a bottle of oil, you can get excited, a carton of canned fish or meat or something. But if they give you the equivalent in money, you probably may not be so grateful.
Of course.
Yes.
That is not good enough for the workers who've been with you from January to December.
But we have a habit where I think sometimes we get into what I call the stomach direction. A lot of times, my sisters and my brothers on this side, we tend to value too much our palates and our stomach to the point where we lose sight of the real important things in life. Because you could have a certain experience or exposure, a trip, an opportunity to sit down with a senior person in your organization. There will be no money changing hands. You may not go with anything in your car, but you would have left with something that has shifted in the mind.
About being recognized, being appreciated from January to December. Yeah.
Yes. And then again, we have different people also having different sources of motivation. And so for those that are motivated by the rice and oil, you would have to take cognizance of that. And then for those that may want some time on the golf pitch with the CEO, should be given that opportunity. If it's a lunch, if it's just a cup of tea or water, or I think we should understand the people we work with so well that we can identify what it is that they would appreciate at this particular time in the year. So perhaps you may end up doing that and it will not affect your balance sheet.
I'll come back to you at the individual level also, but let me get to Charles Mensah, who's also joining us via Zoom. So Charles, in all this thing, you're looking at managing the books well so that we don't get broke in January. In all these things, what should be the right approach whilst trying to recognize and appreciate the staff? But again, watching the books, because don't forget, there is January, there is February. We still have loans that we are servicing. What should be the approach during this time in trying to recognize the staff, show appreciation, and ensure that even as the business, you don't go broke and delay salary payment in January and in February?
It's just communication. You've made earlier on alluded to it that you have to communicate to the employees. And then also, I mean, you can have any year party at the office, just a drink up, and then recognize people in public. So this is our best performance in December or January or March or earlier on. So 30 things that were done during the year, you can recognize and that forum. And then you tell the employees that, look, barring all circumstances, if we close our books and it looks well, by January, we'll declare some bonus, which we paid in February. When you tell them that, they will be very much appreciative. But if you don't do that and nothing is communicated to them, then the expectation becomes higher and the rumor starts. So the next minute, if the MD's private house is probably having some party in the house, it becomes a point of rumor across the employees. So possibly what you have to do is that tell your employees the truth. The truth is that, look, this year, things are tough. We're not going to pay bonuses anyway, but at least I'll speak to the shareholders who will declare something provided it's good. Because one of the things that people do in the past, the books that I've been looking, they rush to sell bad debt in December. Bad debt means that they should rush to make sales in December. It will boost the profitability. But you cannot collect it in January, February. It will become bad debt.
Yeah.
So you have to tell the employees that all the sales that were recognized in December, unless it has been paid by the customers, we will not go to declare and pay bonuses. So if this is clear in the minds of the salespeople, we are good to go. But if it's not clear, then the expectation becomes high. Because the sales performance probably is good. December, everybody sees the number, oh, this is that. By January, they are coming. Even the banks, you can't go borrow from the bank in December. Oh. The banks want to close the books nicely.
Yeah.
So that they will have a very nice debt book debt nicely by December. So you yourself, cry, you won't get loan from them. But sometimes you hear adverts, buy now, no interest, pay next year. So because of that, people will push more sales, customers will go and pay. But January, February, then a challenge comes. I think that we should be real to ourselves.
So you should be as lean as possible as a business person this time. When you have a very demanding staff, a staff that have helped you to grow the numbers and they believe that spend, but you also want to spend wisely so you don't get broke in January.
Introduce your own employees to some insurance. Pay the first premium for them. That next year, I want to encourage all of you to do insurance, pay 200 cedis per month, so that by December, you can cash out and spend on your own. So these are the little things that I want to suggest, that what you can do is that introduce them to certain savings schemes, certain insurance, savings and loans, or something small that they can cash out by November, December. Because once you start January, there will be December. So December shouldn't be a surprise that you are now looking, scratching here and there, selling assets of the company or doing this just to please them, only to have GRA knock at your door in the morning of January, and then you cannot even pay what GRA. And you know GRA, they are too powerful. Once they come in, they can lock your offices. And then everybody will say, you paid bonus last year, now you can't pay your taxes. So please, let's do the right thing. Pay the workers bonuses in January, February. It will good. And then plan a 13th month year for 2022. So that by all means, they will get a 13th month. But bonus, please, do it the following year.
Interesting. Let me come back to Madam Ahiati and let's look at more at the individual level as well. Because that person wants to have fun. And it appears that they forget about their salary and they go spending so much that just 1st of January realize that the account is empty. Will you suggest budgeting in these times? Will you suggest cutting down on the event? Will you suggest a more normal way of eating than buying things that people say, I feel so sorry to use tree. I mean, let me also satisfy my soul.
I think you shouldn't apologize for using tree, but I agree it's not a tree show. So, yes, definitely budgeting is very crucial at this time. And it also tends to be counterproductive if you found yourself in December already without a budget. You should have had the budget before, because a budget is a planning tool. Which means that before you start implementing, you sit down, you think, you have your thinking faculties engaged, and then you put it together. You may have the opportunity to also compare prices and options and opportunities. And if you should have a gap in your budget, as in you realize that wherever you are making your money from for the year, including December, and what you intend to spend, especially when December arrives, are not balancing, then you should think of doing other things during the year that will increase your revenue inflow, so that when December comes, you won't be found wanting. But if it so happens that you didn't plan, or you put a budget together and you lost it, and you find yourself here December 17th, then it's very important that you put the brakes on whatever budget that you are trying to put together. The reason why I say this is that if you had planned your budget earlier, you would, for example, have had your thinking faculties point to shopping when prices were not hiked.
And it comes back to the question about, should you necessarily have to do a makeover when there are certain old stuff in the house that you can rely on? Because again, it's about managing the expenditure.
Yes.
What about joining hands with friends, even like going out, maybe like even parties, or even going out to the pub, and instead of you going alone to buy a table, why don't you put your budget together, maybe 10 Ghana cedis, 10 Ghana, we can buy a bottle and share. Is that approach also a good thing at the individual level in this time? Because it appears that people lose their senses during this time, that they spend so badly, and then it's like just within 1 week, everything is gone. I mean, there's an event that a table is going for almost like 20,000, and I'm hearing that that thing is sold out. You understand me? So sorry. I mean, no.
I think there are many brilliant ideas that we can think about that will help us. Yes, that should help us live modestly and still enjoy ourselves during the
Can you do that?
season.
Can you live a modest, good life and still enjoy the season?
Why not? I have found accountability to be very useful for all things. Usually, when you don't have to account to anybody for anything, you can just let down your guards and just do whatever you want, and then come back crying or cry alone in your closet. But if you have people around you that hold you accountable, and if you yourself are willing to submit yourself to accountability with these people, those would be the great persons that would say, hey, instead of us, I for example, I'm aware of a group of women in some particular churches who shop together during the season.
Christmas?
Yes.
Interesting.
Because if you go buy a 5-kilogram sack of rice, the price may
be different from
the
when
bigger
you buy
one,
the
5
and then you share.
Exactly. And so they buy on a wholesale basis, get the tomatoes, oils, and all that, trust Ghanaian women, and they come together and do this. Maybe it's not only these women I know who do this. It's possible that some companies also do that.
Yeah.
And so they can pool their resources together, just like what you were saying.
Yeah.
Instead of us having individual parties and we having to move from home to home.
Why don't you do it together?
Yes, after all, it's all of us in the party. Yeah. So brilliant idea from you. And I think that these ideas would work. When it comes to makeovers, sometimes there are even things in your closet
that you can rely on. Then necessarily go into the shop and get the latest Christmas tree that you can clap and the lights comes on. Oh, you don't want to still plug that one and do that.
Yeah. So I think that sometimes maybe we're a bit too sensitive to the reaction and responses of the people around
rather than you being disciplined yourself as a person and sticking to those things. Mr. Mensah, let me come to you and look at the business side of it as well. Would you discourage taking things on credit as well in your quest to satisfy your staff?
No, I think it amounts to the same thing. You won't take things for credit on the back of what? If on the back of customers who will be paying you monies in January, fair enough, then you can do it. But it's on the back of some new things that you can't pay for it, then you are starting the year with a bit of a challenge. But just before I go further, I wanted to draw an attention to something. And this is my advice to a bunch of employees out there when you receive your bonus. You see, I want you to adapt something called PSI. When you receive your bonus, the P stands for pay down your debt, your own personal debt, people that you hold from.
We have a lot of them.
Yes, so pay down your debt. The S stands for savings. When you pay down your debt, then you can save before you do
Uncle Charles, saving and investing during Christmas. No, let me get it well. I'm sorry, but saving and investing during Christmas.
Because when you don't,
I want to get that clarity from you.
Yes, that's the point I'm trying to make. That
thank you.
See, because the bonus is incidental to your life. Because you are working, they are paying you money, they are paying you salary. Plan around that. Forget the bonus. When the bonus comes, please use it for a purpose so that tomorrow you can say that this is what I use my bonus for. Because look, George, take it. If you use a bonus for the 4-day event, in January, it will be like 6 weeks in January, when it's only 4 weeks. Because your kids' school fees, your family pressure, all this will come into play. So let's ignore bonus, because when you are being employed by your company, they didn't introduce bonus to you at the day one. They introduce salary to you. So the bonus is like a windfall. And if it's a windfall, I rather use that for something better. That I can always, for a plot of land here, or for a deposit or something. So that tomorrow you can say, this is what I use my bonus for. Else, your bonus will be used for 4 days. And then all you have to do is say, oh, child, this December, I enjoyed it. And then you are going to cry the following month. So please,
my father would say, outside gentility, home cry. Sorry, go ahead.
Home cry. You see? And if nothing is left, please volunteer for charity job. You know, people are going to feed, multimedia will be feeding the street children. You can join them, and Christmas is sharing. You can join them. You can go to church and help clean the church. It's also part of the activity. I'm telling you. Because the things that people do, so that when you plan properly from 2022, then next year you can have a bash because you plan towards it.
So, but Uncle Charles, if I get from you at the individual level, so even at businesses, if you want to really enjoy this season, plan for it from January. Don't wait till a week to Christmas, and you are doing, pay as you go, or and getting some money.
I'll tell you something for free. You know, in business, the SMEs, for instance, you can create a special bank account. My friends do T-shirts and things. That's what they've done. So they do susu every week. And that susu, when they cash out, they pay their workers' bonus out of that susu.
Oh.
In the same way, when you do your monthly report and you notice that profits are coming in excess of what you budgeted for, you can throw that money into a special account, which you can use it in December to do December activity for your employees.
I see.
So all this is boiled down to planning. If you don't plan, and the next company is doing it, and therefore you also want to do it, you would have a problem. Don't do it because the next company plan it. Plan.
We'll be moving into the bigger economy thing. I'll be coming back to you after the break to get your final thoughts on the advice for businesses as well. And then we'll come and look at the bigger economy as well in Christmas. People are spending. What is it in for government as well in terms of the end of year? There's also that virus the Omicron, and how is it going to impact on the bigger revenue as well and the bigger economy? So your advice for businesses, and then we look into the bigger economy as well. This is PM Express Business Edition. How do you spend right so you don't go get broke in January 2022? We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to PM Express Business Edition as you look at the Christmas economy. How do you spend right so you don't get broke in January next? Mr. Charles Mensah is a financial consultant, and Doris Yahiati, she's also a banking consultant, and they are sharing their thoughts with me on how to manage the situation. And let me go to Mr. Mensah as we try to wrap up on this discussion as well. But Charles, there's also the Christmas economy as well. People are spending. What should be the government's approach when it comes to revenue in these times, of course?
The VAT that has been recognized in December will be paid because companies are given 30 days to pay their VAT. So all the sales, all the boom that is coming in December, government itself, unless it's extending the year to January, government itself will start recognizing the money in January. And I'm not sure about whether we are doing a accrual system or not. Because if we're doing an accrual system, then all the VAT due. But you see, government VAT as or GRA itself will not know how much VAT the company will pay until they file the return.
Okay, sorry, we're having a problem with Uncle Charles there. So let me come to Madam Ahiati on your final advice for businesses, and then we moved into the economy because of time challenges. What do you tell those businesses out there closing the year on the good note?
I quickly want to remind the businesses that definitely for you to be closing your books on a good note, you should not forget your key partners who potentially have helped you to generate whatever performance that you have recorded during the year. So it's a good time to recognize and reward those that have contributed to the performance during the year. But that said, you should have the plan in place at the beginning of the year. And I want to quickly add that just as this works for individuals, it also works for businesses. You need to exercise discipline, financial discipline. So restraint, you need to, so that you avoid the excesses and that you are prudent in the timing of your expenditure, so that you can take advantage of opportunities that will enable you reduce your actual cost. And then you should remember to be accountable. Accountability always puts us in check. And so you may have partners that help you to be accountable. In some organizations, it will be the board. A number of SMEs may not have a board. They are not accountable to anyone. And so you can dip your hand in, you can do whatever you like. It helps for you to have a board in place. And then you must have your plan, which is the budget. And you should always have it at the beginning of the year. I would like to say that even though we've had the conversation along these lines, I am quite certain that most organizations, especially those that are bigger than SMEs, would have done their planning and finished it in November for the coming year. And so there shouldn't be so much of a surprise. And a lot of organizations also do their shopping in bulk at the beginning of the quarter or at the beginning of the year for the first half, and somewhere in the middle of the year for the second half of the year. And so a lot of what we are seeing in the month of December may be attributable to things that just came up, emergencies, but it's more applicable to the retail side, individuals more than organizations.
Let me give a message to Charles Mensah and I wrap up when I come to Madam Ahiati in the studio. So for you, Mr. Mensah, I mean, December, lot of spending, lot of people moving around, burger dollars in town. Something good for government, right, in terms of revenue?
Yeah, there's a bit of stability in the dollar number in December, because burgers, once they come, they spend.
They spend.
They spend because they have the cash. Because they have planned in wherever they are coming from, and they are coming to spend the money here. So that's why we're encouraging everybody to plan. So burgers come in with dollars, with pounds, with euros, and then there will be some stability here. Businesses would have imported some of the goods here on credit from China, from Europe, to sell during December. So you notice that normally January, February, the 90-day credit that they have to pay back those goods. And once they're paying back, the dollar also will shoot up. But these days, you can do some forward buying also through your bankers, through Bank of Ghana. And I'm sure that this is the time that businesses should reflect. But mind you, whatever cash that is coming to your hand, especially if you're SME, you ought to pay VAT next year. And therefore, you have to make sure that you are not spending the money, you are keeping it to pay your VAT next year. Please don't borrow once again to pay things. Start planning. And when individual, you have the money, please pay down your debts. When there's some left, use it for something good, so that you can enjoy that. You listen to George and you listen to this advice, and you have to. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mensah. I'll come back to you to wrap up. But Madam Ahiati, on the economy as well. I mean, for you, what should be government's approach? I mean, a lot of things are happening. What should be the approach? Taxing people more, being more aggressive to get to cream part of what is going on. You see DRE at every event, accounting for the tickets and all the rest. What should be the approach in terms of government's approach to ensure that it benefits from what is going on?
Okay, so what we've seen historically as a trend is that in the final quarter, especially in December, you see that the pace of closing in the deficit gap improve. And that's because all the spending that happens drives up the revenue that the government is able to mobilize, especially those that are attributable to spending, the VAT. So definitely that is going to be a windfall for the government. However, government still needs to be cautious, because they also incur expenditure during the season.
Wow.
And if they don't put the brakes on the expenditure during the season, then it may well offset whatever gains they are making from the additional revenues due to spending that is going on. Don't forget that government also has stakeholders, and just like we have been talking about employees versus employer.
Government diaries. I remember it became a big issue some time ago. Sorry.
Exactly. So the government would also have to recognize and reward some stakeholders, say thank you, etc. And that can also drive up their own expenditure during the season, depending on what they choose to present as gifts for acknowledging either their stakeholders or partners during the season. Another thing that government would need to keep an eye on is their own return on productivity. Because the salaries that you are paying your civil service, it's not going to go down, but productivity tends to decline significantly during this time of the year. So you are paying more or less for nothing. So that's another way that we can say the revenue being brought in is a little bit upset. And the final concern there is that government expenditure will also be at elevated prices because they also buy at the same prices that we see inflated in the market.
In 30 seconds, because of time, Omicron, would it destroy all these things that we've spoken about?
I am an eternal optimist, so I would say no. I think where we've come to, we can be pretty certain that we'll find a way around it, especially as we learn to boost our immune systems and as we observe the protocols that have been identified. More people are vaccinated and therefore it can't get that worse.
Mr. Mensah, 30 seconds? 30 seconds.
30 seconds. I think government will have to make sure that the gift mix is working. Gift mix means that you cannot spend out of what you budgeted for by Parliament. And you notice that people are justifying the budget as we speak. So these days, you won't get excess budgeting. But I pray that this Christmas will be good. Omicron has nothing to do with us. We pray to God to protect everybody, including you.
Amen.
We will say through. Amen.
Okay. Amen. And Merry Christmas in advance to all our viewers out there, and also to my guest and to Charles Mensah for joining us via Zoom as well. This has been PM Express Business Edition. I know the debate will still go on in your homes about how do you spend right so you don't get broke in January. Have a great day. This is PM Express.